So let's get into this. We left off on spirit folk. I think our spirits are higher now. We're ready for this. I think what people have enjoyed is that we've been able to make these available on YouTube so that they could slowly digest them.
Oh yeah.
And take their time, because I think watching these can be difficult.
Yeah, a lot of people have said like they need to take like breaks in between because we go through a lot of stuff.
Some heavy shit.
And it's heavy. That's the word I would use to describe it. Oof.
Some heavy shit. So, spirit folk. I could start reading. Spirit folk are the descendants of humans and various spirits of nature. You know what? I have noticed that we have dropped frames now.
Oh.
So if you're in the chat, let me know if something is going on with your screen, because I just wanna make sure everything's good. Okay.
We're getting Zoom bombed. Is that what's happening?
I think we're getting Zoom bombed.
Oh no.
Zoom. Another reason why I don't like Zoom. There are three distinct races of spirit. Oh God. There are three distinct races of spirit folk: bamboo, river, and sea spirit folk. Okay, I'm curious to see what they mean by bamboo. All have very strong ties to both the natural world and the society of humans. All spirit folk can be samurai, Kensai, or Bushi player characters, through their strong ties to humans. In appearance, spirit folk seem extremely human. Extremely human. Does that seem odd? And it reads as odd to me. Their eyes are...
It reads very odd, but that's because D&D is just generally very human-centric, which is another problem, but...
Yeah. Here we go. Their eyes are very thin. Their eyes are slender, and their mouths are small. Their eyebrows are very thin, and their complexions are very pale or golden. Oh boy.
I'm getting some like weird, like my spidey sense is like going off here. But let's keep going.
The men are always smooth shaven, without beards or mustaches. Oh God. They appear in all diversity of humans. What? Okay. They basically have just created a stereotypical image of an Asian, and then they were like, oh, but spirit folk are in all forms of humanity. But all radiate a robust love of life and nature. That's the stupidest sentence ever.
What is... Okay, yeah.
Many come close to the ideal of human beauty in this society.
In the society, okay.
That entire paragraph is just bad. I wouldn't say it's just outright offensive, but I would just say it's just bad writing. It's poorly written. I mean... First of all, so they say many come close to the ideal of human beauty. That's what they conclude with. But then they start by saying they've got slender eyes, small mouths, thin eyebrows, and are smooth shaven without beards or mustaches.
I feel like what they wanted to say was that all men have six packs and all women have huge boobs and are super thin. Like,
yeah, basically. And they all look very East Asian.
Yes.
That's a big one. I didn't think they'd ever get to describing the eyes, but they did it. Spirit folk are highly attuned to nature and possess special powers dealing with natural forces and events. These powers are drawn from their spirit ancestry. All have infravision with a 120-foot range. One of the things that I've noticed with AD&D is that they lead with like flavor, and then they go right into something mechanical. Because part of their ancestry is human, all spirit folk must belong to a family or clan. They can, however, hold land and establish a family if this is allowed by their character class and level. However, spirit folk have an additional responsibility to their spirit lord, the lord of the wood, the lord of the rivers, or the lord of the sea. While the spirit folk can never obtain honor from the actions of the spirit lord.
You have to drink if you're watching. He said honor.
He said honor. Are we doing this thing? This is a thing?
That's what I do. That's like my personal choice.
Okay. They are required to answer and obey his summons. Failing to do so, or acting in a manner that dishonors the spirit lord, will be punished by natural disasters visited on the spirit folk and its human family. In cases where the human families and the spirit lord's interests conflict, spirit folk are expected to support their spirit lord first. Yikes.
So there's a lot that we kind of went through there. Here's what I think for positive stuff. I think it's very clear they were trying to make elves, like Asian elves. This is
an Asian elf for sure.
Yeah, it's Asian elves. There are problems like inherent to that, but at least they're consistent problems. So the ways you can like combat the elf problem is you would do the same thing here. Elves are a very like tropey kind of softball that you can just kind of catch and use, but has problems.
Yeah, these are Asian elves with honor. Yeah, that's what they've done.
Yep. I actually really like, and I think this is a very interesting like story element of having a character that is like right out of the gate conflicted by this kind of human heritage and this like spirit heritage, and more than that, these like human lords or like people of authority versus like the spirit folk of authority. It seems to me like you've kind of written a race here with dramatic poles kind of like already laid out for you.
I like how you said dramatic poles.
Is that what it's called? I'm hoping that's what it's called.
No, but dramatic poles is what we're using in our Dungeons and Asians thing. Dramatic poles are actually a game mechanic in a game, I think it's called Hillfolk.
Yes.
It's in a Pelgrane Press book. And I like it better than alignment. Because for those of you who are, watching right now, the dramatic poles basically cover two conflicting parts of your character's personality, their ideals, their goals, their life. It could be, your dedication to honor, or in this case, your spirit lord, and your dedication to the human aspect of you, that human realm, your human family. And these things guide your actions and create a more complex character than saying, say, chaotic neutral or lawful good. Because honestly, lawful good, that whole spectrum of alignments is just kind of boring to me.
Yeah. And it's super Eurocentric. It makes a lot of assumptions about like what ethics and like what philosophy you adhere to. And like it's on the best of days, it's restricting. And on the worst of days, it's worse. Maybe there's more alignment talk when we dig into that, but let's keep going here. Bamboo spirit folk, who I really wanted to read about. These spirit folk normally live near forests or jungles. Bamboo spirit folk have a 75% chance to recognize and identify normal plants and a 50% chance to identify normal animals. They can move alone on foot through woodland, forest, or grassland without leaving a trail. When spirit folk is traveling with others, including other spirit folk, a modifier is given to all attempts to follow the group's trail. When in woods or forests, a bamboo spirit folk has a 75% chance to hide in shadows. Each time bamboo spirit folk gains a level experience, he can learn the language of one particular forest animal. The player chooses the language learned. It's all kind of boring.
I just don't like how boring. There's only one thing I don't like, and it's that they said bamboo spirit folk, but then they don't really talk about bamboo. They just talk about woodland, forest, or grassland. But they selected bamboo because they want it to sound Asian. Yeah,
their editor was like, "Can you make this more Asian?" They're like, "Yeah, do a Control F, find
anything that says forest or wood and make it bamboo."
Yeah, that's exactly what happened there.
Because I will let you know, like, have you been to Asia?
I have very vivid memories of being in the jungles of Vietnam.
Have you seen a lot of bamboo
in Vietnam? I mean, yeah, there's like in the jungles and stuff you can see bamboo, but it's not just bamboo.
Yeah. I in China, I think I saw more non-bamboo trees than I ever saw bamboo.
Yeah.
Honestly, a forest in Asia looks shockingly similar to a forest in Europe, depending on where you are.
I think we talked about Okja. Have we talked about Okja before?
Yeah, we did. We talked about it last time.
I love how they portrayed and showed like all the forests and what have you. Not like a single piece of bamboo. Or maybe there wasn't, I just missed it. But like the forest is just lush and dense and gorgeous and very aggressively like Korean and Asian.
Very aggressively Korean.
Yeah.
Aggressively Asian.
Yeah. I took that from Ajay. I'm just like, I'm gonna start using aggressive more.
Aggressive.
Because of their affinity with natural forces, Bamboo spirit folk get a +1 bonus on all saving throws versus spells, rods, staves, wands, and other magical things that involve elements earth and wood. Sorry, I was just thinking mechanically that's a very interesting way of phrasing that, because that is not like a, in my understanding, a spell like descriptor, earth and wood, but that's like an old AD&D thing, which I kind of like, where like the spells are a little bit more vague. It plays out differently, and it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just different.
Yep.
The life force of a bamboo spirit folk is always tied to the bamboo grove deep within the forest. There we go. Found it. If this grove is damaged, the bamboo spirit folk suffers an equal amount of damage. If the grove is destroyed, the bamboo spirit folk character dies instantly. When a bamboo spirit folk enters this grove, he is instantly cured of all wounds and diseases. This grove can never be moved, nor do shoots sprouted from this grove have any special effects.
It's interesting. It's basically like having a lich's phylactery.
Yeah, I was thinking more like a dryad kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that plays a little bit more, plays more into like that whole, they're Asian elves.
I think this kind of stuff is cool, but having it so explicit in this rule set, I could see the GMs of the 80s being like, okay, well, I have a bamboo spirit folk character who is messing up my campaign. All of a sudden you feel a burning, and yeah, you're forced to go back to your grove because somebody's holding up a torch to your grove and they're messing with you. Like, I could just see DMs really exploiting that. But that's not like a problematic thing of the content. That's just like, oh, I could see an asshole DM messing with a player.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're on water.
Yes. You want to switch here?
Yeah, let's switch off. River spirit.
Wait, it goes river and sea? Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, rivers play a very central part in Chinese mythology.
And the ocean is, like, very clearly, like, a different thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's go through this. Go ahead.
River spirit folk are associated with one particular river or stream and commonly live somewhere near it. River spirit folk can breathe normally in any type of fresh water. They can swim in any type of water at their normal movement rate, reduced for encumbrance. Duh. When swimming, all items they carry, including unprotected paper or scrolls, remain perfectly dry, even if submerged. Interesting. That's kind of cool. Once per day, they can lower water in rivers and streams by a depth of 10 feet, allowing others to cross easily. This effect lasts 5 rounds. River spirit folk are attuned to water in all its forms, so they gain a +1 bonus on all saving throws versus spells, rods, staves, wands, and miscellaneous magical items involving the element water. They are especially vulnerable to fire, suffering a -1 penalty on all saving throws versus fire-based attacks. They speak the language of fishes, the court language, and the trade language of the land. The life force of a river spirit folk is tied to a single particular river, chosen either by the GM or the player, as it lies in its natural banks. Water drawn from the river or diverted for irrigation is no longer considered part of the river. Bathing within the banks of the river cures the river spirit folk of all wounds and diseases instantly. Likewise, changes in the flow of the river affect the character. Periods of drought, which lower the water in the river, also weaken the player character, temporarily lowering his hit points and ability scores. Major flooding makes the character wild and uncontrollable. Damming and other engineering changes make the character progressively weaker until he finally dies. I don't see anything particularly offensive about it. I just don't know why they put all of these limitations on it. They put a lot of things here. This is just, I think it's just a commentary on AD&D in general. But they put all of these mechanisms in place for the GM to, like, check their players.
Yeah.
Like, these are all things that don't give the player agency.
Yeah. But on the flip side, I actually love this. I think it's written poorly. I think there's better ways to implement it. But the idea that you're connected to, like, this natural thing, this natural, like, beauty, and then it affects things like your mood and, like, your well-being. These are all cool ideas. Execution is not great here, but I could definitely, like, this I could see this inspiring, like, another piece of my writing down the road.
I think it's interesting. Like, when I was reading this, I was thinking, oh, maybe this is like Dongfang.
Yeah.
It very much could be.
I like the idea of like changes to the river can like have a physical, mental, emotional impact on someone who comes from that river or like is very attuned to it. Cool.
I don't see anything wrong with that. Let's move on.
Yep. Sea spirit folk. The sea is vast, so of all the spirit folk, those of the sea are the most numerous. Sea spirit folk, like the riverkin, breathe normally in any salt water, and some of their normal movement rates reduced by encumbrance in any type of water. The equipment they carry while swimming never becomes wet. We actually didn't talk about that for the river folk, but did you have thoughts on like this idea that you can just carry around like books and they never get wet?
I thought it was kind of funny, to be honest.
I super like it.
I like it. I want to know how it works. Like, are they surrounded by a field? Do they get wet? Like, is their hair wet? Like, how does that work? I think it's neat. I think it's awesome. I think that they and everything that they possess becomes kind of one with water. Because when you think of it, when things that are susceptible to water get soaked with water, that's that adversarial relationship between the material and the water. But since they are one with water, their possessions are also not damaged or tarnished by water, which I think is neat.
It's very interesting. It reminds me of I had this huge problem because I had written this story element in one of my D&D games, where they had a Sahagwin who was writing letters, quote, back home. And I was like, wait a minute, how do you write a letter back home if you live underwater? So
this way.
This way. But actually on the spot, what I did was I decided that they write all of their letters in like basically a piece of wax and they scratch in the letters. Then they roll that up and they mail it. And my players were like, they're still talking about how cool that is. And I made it on the spot, just like on this weird restriction that water makes things wet.
You know what I would have done? I just thought of this right now.
Yeah.
They would have written on kelp. You know how algae and kelp kind of flows and grows up underwater? And it makes these beautiful vertical sort of gardens? Well, imagine an aquatic race, and they carve their writing into the kelp so that when you hold it up to the light, even when you're underwater, you can read through the light. And these libraries, they're literally a growing library. Imagine the books and papers actually just grow taller. And the light shining through all these carved and cut pieces of plant material underwater. I think it would be so beautiful in a D&D game.
That's really, really cool. And I'm 100% stealing that.
All of you can take that.
Oh man, that's so cool. You have this one kelp tree, this like one living creature that these like generations of Sahagwin have been like using to write their art or document things. Yeah,
and it's a living document. It's something that they are incentivized to protect, but it's also a nice cool focal point for that one settlement or cult or anything. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. Anyways, talking about water, the equipment they're carrying never becomes wet. Once per day, they can predict the weather for the next 24 hours with a 7% chance of being right. They speak the court language of the sea lords, and the trade language of the land. They have a +1 all saving throws versus fire-based attacks. Interestingly, with the +1, the river folk get -1. Sea spirit folk are not affected by changes in the sea, nor do they receive healing benefits from it. Once a year, they can receive one favor from the sea. A violent storm, fair sailing winds, rain, the recovery of a particular item from the bottom of the ocean, etc. The sea spirit folk must ask for a specific thing. Should two sea spirit folk ever make opposing requests, neither will be granted, and their favors for that year are lost. Of all the spirit lords, the Lord of the Sea has the most authority and takes the most interest in the activities of his kin. If a sea spirit folk character raises his honor to 85, the Lord of the Sea bestows a gift upon him. You know what? You're at 84, but I'm feeling good. I'm going to bump that to 85, and here's your gift.
Yeah, I know, right? Because honor is quantifiable.
Yeah. This may be a valuable treasure from the bottom of the sea, a special service or magic item such as the Pearl of Rising Tide. This gift is given with no conditions or expectations of repayment. Honestly, I think it's kind of cool. I think there's problems on it. Technically, there's problems with it. Mechanically, I think it's a cool idea.
So what do you think about fire being the weakness of these water creatures? I would always assume that ice would be their weakness or something, or cold.
Like I get what they're going for, like heat, dry, fire is the damage. But I actually really like in 3.5 they had a supplement called Sandstorm. I think it was called Sandstorm. My hope is that it's called Sandstorm because I love that.
Is this okay? Describe it and then I might know it.
It was one of 3 books from Stormwracked, Frostburn, and Sandstorm.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, well, they had 3 books that were all about environments. Sandstorm was, of course, deserts, and they introduced a new type of damage called desiccation damage. The idea that, like, by losing water, you begin to die. That was really cool.
Yeah.
It makes things very crunchy, because you're like, do I have resistance to desiccation? But
well, it's 3.5.
I see what they're doing. 3.5. It's supposed to be crunchy, but like I see what they're trying to go for. I kind of liked it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're now on to Oriental classes. Long sigh. Okay.
I don't think we have to go through this table necessarily.
No, we don't.
Unless you're looking at anything.
I'm just kind of looking at the weapons. But I don't think that we could save that for a different session. Maybe I would honestly love to see if we could find some sort of like a martial arts expert who can go over just the weapons with us.
That'd be really, really cool. I think that'll be really helpful in like the 3.5 review that we do.
I think I want to get somebody who's not a gamer. That's what I think.
That'd be really, really cool. I love just hearing like that diverse like set of voices. Just like, I don't know what Dungeons and whatever the other D stands for, but man, that paragraph right here, that's a problem. Here's why.
Yeah, like that's what I want to hear. So let's start with the Oriental Barbarian. Players familiar with the Barbarian class described in Unearthed Arcana should read this section carefully, as Oriental Barbarians are different from their Western counterparts. A barbarian must have strength or constitution of 15, blah, blah, blah. Barbarians have no prime requisite and never gain an experience point bonus. They cannot be lawful. Okay.
That's a normal D&D thing, though.
That is a normal D&D thing. But
which has other problems.
But I don't like,
sure we can talk about the problem.
It's saying that like that's not a normal D&D thing. You're saying well that's the way it is. They cannot be lawful. Humans and Korobokuro can be barbarians. Okay. Barbarians roll 12-sided dice to determine their hit points, gaining 1 die per level. They use combat and saving throw tables for fighters. They gain the use of weapons and armor. Their initial selection of weapon proficiencies, however, is limited depending on where the barbarian is from. Curious. Barbarians gain additional 2 hit points per level for every point of constitution over 14. Instead of constitution bonuses listed on table 4, so they're tankier. Barbarians as a class detest magic and those who use it. At low levels of experience, they cannot use any sort of magical item, and even at higher levels, they can use only a few magical items. They never gain experience for discovering or possessing a magical item. If a barbarian destroys a magical item, however, he earns its full experience point value. In addition, at low levels, barbarians cannot associate with Wu Gen or spirit folk, but consider them deadly foes. Even at higher levels, barbarians can view these characters with suspicion. There's nothing particularly Asian there, but one of the things I've noticed is that they are trying very hard to create this distinction between the spiritual, martial China, with that Wu Gen and spirit folk, and that like northern barbarian. The fact that they detest magic is like whatever you want them to be.
Yeah.
So these
I want to know what makes them Oriental. Like what?
I know
what
that's what I don't see any. So maybe there's more. So okay, we don't have to read these all out loud. They can climb trees and natural cliffs, hide in natural surroundings, almost like rangers.
Yeah, which is like not bad. But at the bottom, you'll see here that there's different types of barbarians, like stepland, forest, jungle.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So let's go to stepland. Do you want to read those?
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to read the above because.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good point.
Within the world's Oriental AD&D Adventures, there are 3 territories where barbarians live: the barren, steplands, the forested seacoasts of the north, and the jungles of the south. All barbarians come from one of these areas. Each area allows the characters a different selection of proficiencies. So stepland barbarians. These barbarians are roving nomads, masters of the horse. Their preferred weapons are the light lance, horse bow, sword, and hand axe. Proficiency they can choose from are horsemanship, long distance signaling, outdoor craft, tracking, animal handling, weaponsmith, armor, bowery, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read all of these. These barbarians usually live in leather tents, following the movements of migratory herds. They raise small herds of cattle and sheep, but practice no other agriculture.
They are what the Chinese saw the Mongolians as.
Yep.
Forest barbarians.
So actually, I'm gonna pause here because we talked about like how we're gonna focus on if they're saved, like people to be saved, violent, things like that. So as per usual, D&D is ignoring all of like the arts and like other aspects of culture.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like if you're a barbarian, you're good at running. There's dancing and singing. You know what? I'll give them that. Dancing, singing, and weaving.
Yeah, but you don't think about beautiful architecture or anything like that. What's interesting is that a lot of people, particularly those who try to handle Mongolian culture and the Mongolians and the Khans in fantasy, only see them as these nomadic horse masters. But these people from the north, they conquered China. They conquered China and they took over. And they created grand architecture, beautiful pottery.
Yep.
I'm not going to dive into the pottery because that's like another tangent I don't want to go on again. But they created beautiful works of art that aren't just limited to things like weaving or singing or dancing, because those are things that you see associated with their nomadic lifestyle.
So problems, but nothing we really haven't seen before, which is still a problem.
Yeah. Honestly, the way they portray the Stepland Barbarian is the way that perhaps the Chinese would have portrayed them or seen them historically back in the day. So you could see which perspective they are writing from.
Yep. Forest barbarians. So these barbarians live in the snowy forests that dot small islands and line the coast of the northern part of the world. Their preferred weapons are spear, short bow, harpoon, sword. Proficiencies they can choose from are small watercraft, fishing, tracking, survival, animal handling, weaponsmithing, pottery, cool, bower, sound imitation, snare building, weaving, tanning, carpentry, agriculture, singing, chanting, dancing, and rhetoric. These barbarians live in small, permanent villages. The women raise small crops. The men hunt and fish. That's a comma splice error, FYI.
Yeah, it is.
About that.
So here's what I see immediately with this one. Forest barbarians, by this description, are anybody that live outside of a major city. Anybody who lives outside of a major city. But it's also, they live the snowy forests that dot small islands and line the coast in the northern part of the Forgotten Realms or wherever. Or I guess Karatur.
Yep.
But if you live on an island village, you are a forest barbarian. But if you live in a city, maybe you're something completely different. But again, nothing that's like overtly racist or anything.
No, just like the problems of how barbarians are portrayed in general.
Yeah. Let's go jungle
Moving on.
barbarian.
Jungle. This one, my spidey sense is tingling on this one. These people live in the tropical jungles of the south. Their preferred weapons are blowgun, spear, sword, blowgun, and dagger. Proficiency they can choose from are small watercraft, fishing, swimming, survival, animal handling, carpentry, skipping a lot here, pottery, tracking, chanting, dancing, music, and sailing craft. They live in permanent villages, surviving by gathering jungle plants, hunting wild animals, and fishing. Barbarians are automatically considered outsiders. Oh, this is a different thing, but barbarians are automatically considered outsiders and thus occupy the lowest levels of the caste system. Ooh, we haven't seen anything about the caste system yet, so look up for that.
Only brief mentions of it, yeah.
Barbarian characters never roll on table 38, character birth. When dealing with people from settled lands, the birth of the barbarian has little importance. The military and financial power of the barbarian is far more important factor. The barbarian's clan is very important to him, and other barbarians, and all barbarians must belong to a particular clan.
At like a...
No, go ahead. I was going to say blowguns, but...
Yeah, I was going to say blowguns. At like the... I don't want to assume anything about this, but almost at like... You know that Ali Wong joke? This is the first thing I thought of. So in one of Ali Wong's specials, she talks about two different kinds of Asians, like East Asians. She talks about how there are fancy Asians. So that's like the Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans, and then jungle Asians. And that's immediately what I thought of. I'm like, oh, jungle Asians, like Ali Wong said. Because basically, what they've done here with this section of the Oriental Barbarian is they've created a societal hierarchy based on your socioeconomic level.
Yep.
So if you're a character and you're trying to tell a story about somebody who is like a fighter from a village, you can't be like a fighter. You can't be a samurai. You got to be a jungle barbarian or something like that. But again, it's not like overtly racist or anything. It's just kind of tacky, to be honest.
It's a problem of having a barbarian and then an Oriental barbarian. It's like you kind of wrote yourself into a corner. You forced yourself to have to write a jungle barbarian.
I mean, I don't know if they forced themselves to write a jungle barbarian. They could have just made it a barbarian.
The leap in logic is something I can definitely follow. It's still a problem.
I would have just said, you're a barbarian, the story is yours. And then go from there. That's what they should have said in D&D in general. The story is yours.
Yeah.
Barbarian Horde, that's like the standard thing. This is like you have people that you can use to fight, pillage, raiding. They're still really vibing off of the fact that anybody who lives outside of a city or lives in, like, say, the north, all they care about is the needs of themselves, and they will take from others.
Yep. There's a line here. However, no horde ever remains together for more than weeks. For more weeks than 1.5 times the leader's level. So, like, at some point, the horde always disbands.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong about that, or evil, or awful.
What I was really worried about is any mention of, like, cannibalism for being part of this horde. That to me is like a very sore, like, spot and representation.
Cannibalism or acts of extreme violence.
Yep. But I mean, it's not mentioned here, so small win. Very small win.
Okay, so let's skip this part. Let's go to Bushi. Bushi are masterless warriors. Again, they say it's always gendered as they're always talking about men. Bushi are masterless warriors, men without ties to a lord, temple, or monastery. They are commonly mercenaries, bandits, highwaymen, or wanderers, earning their money however they can. They can be found serving samurai, protecting the court, or swelling the ranks of armies. A few may be Kensai who have fallen by the way. Most, however, are men of low birth who have chosen the way of the warrior to advance in the world. I don't know. And again, this doesn't seem like super offensive. It's like they're trying to say, look, this Bushi, we need to have a fighter class. But we need to have a fighter class who has no association with honor, because that's what's going to separate the samurai from them, right? So this is somebody who isn't bound by honor, which they want to feature in Oriental Adventures. That's the only difference I see with this and some of the other classes. I don't know if you see anything wrong with that first one.
No, nothing. It's boring.
It's boring. That's it.
It's boring.
It's I wouldn't say like tacky, but it's interesting that they used the word Bushi, because that comes from Bushido, right? The way of the warrior, that sort of Japanese collective for the code of honor and those ideals that you see associated with the samurai. It's kind of like chivalry, right? But they're saying that they're masterless. They have no ties to anybody. They're mercenaries. They're bandits. They don't have honor. But then you use the word way of the warrior, this thing that is very strongly associated with honor. I find that very odd.
It's just inconsistent and confusing.
Honestly, if they just called it a bandit, that would have been more culturally appropriate to an Asian setting. Because you hear bandit used in a lot of Asian tales. And they're not necessarily evil, right? Because, like, Even European gamers, I want to say European gamers, even white gamers would get it because like, oh, bandit, I can be a good bandit. Robin Hood's a good bandit.
Yeah.
Like in the Water Margin, the Chinese Tale, that is a story about bandits who are literally demon stars manifest into these dope ass warriors. Right? I think bandit would have been a way better choice. Or they could have just kept fighter.
Yeah, we didn't need Oriental fighter.
Yeah, we didn't need Oriental fighter because that's the samurai. There's no other kind of fighter in the Orient. A Bushi's prime requisite is strength. A Bushi character must have minimum scores of 9 in strength and 8 in dexterity and constitution, because they can't be very good. They can kind of be okay. Mm-hmm. Bushi characters with strength 14 or greater gain a 10% bonus on all experience. Thus, if the DM awards a character 550 experience points, that character receives an additional 55. Blah, blah, blah. They use a D10. Skip that. They say
poverty
here.
Thing.
The poverty.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no,
there's
fine.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Bushi are often quite poor and find it difficult to buy and maintain their armor and equipment. Therefore, all Bushi begin with basic proficiencies in weaponsmith, armorer, and bowyer. In addition, their lack of armor gradually teaches them to be nimble on their feet. Thus, in addition to any defensive adjustment a Bushi may have from a high dexterity score, his armor class improves by 1 step for every 5 experience levels. This adjustment applies regardless of whether the character is wearing armor. Though Bushi are often poor, they are seldom out of work. What does that mean? Do they just get paid poorly, or they just spend all their money? There's always a need for a stout warrior, or at least a strong hand. Just as the nobles have the samurai for protection, pay usually is not... Oh, wait, I missed that. Just as the nobles have their samurai to protect them, the peasants and merchant folk often look on Bushi for protection. The pay usually is not good, but provides a Bushi's basic needs. Thus, a Bushi is in a friendly or neutral village or town can always find employment, food, and shelter. The food may be thin rice gruel.
I love that. I love that.
Kanji. And the shelter, a leaky stable, but something will always be available. A thin rice gruel. There's 3 paragraphs on poverty. Poverty has also made Bushi masters of the art of finding loose equipment. Bushi have a base 20% chance to find any common piece of equipment, as per the equipment list, in any village. This chance is increased to 25% in a medium-sized village, 30% in a large village, 40% in a small town, and 50, is that a 50 or 60 in a large town, and 90 in any city. The item will either be at half price or free, depending on the nature of the item. Lawful good Bushi always must pay at least half the value of the item, although services such as splitting wood or cleaning dishes can count as payment. Oh god, okay. Kiata good Bushi will always pay half the value if they have enough money. The DM determines what is available and how much it costs. So what do you think about this poverty thing?
There's a lot to talk about poverty, and I don't really know why. Or I can make some guesses, but I mean, it seems like a lot for like this thing that's going to come up and just be bookkeeping through the game. That's like a design thing, though.
That's a design thing.
Yeah. I don't got much more about it. I mean, they've clearly tried to like make a bandit character. So yeah, if you're gonna be a bandit character,
just call it a bandit.
You want to have this, yeah, call it a bandit. And if you want attention of like, you're always trying to scrounge up money, you don't need 5 paragraphs on it.
No, not at all. I honestly would have called this a bandit, and then this could have been your rogue.
Totally.
Yeah, if you really wanted a rogue.
Yeah.
Although I think a rogue is pretty, I would say, cross-cultural. Oh, look at this. The hard life of a Bushi gives him little time for self-contemplation and intense mental training, both of which greatly aid the use of chi. However, Bushi do have an elementary chi power. I say chi and they want ki.
I'll probably say ki because I'll just read what's on the paper.
By entering a fight with a fierce ki shout, the Bushi temporarily raises his effective level by 2.
What?
The way he temporarily gains the hit points, fighting ability, and saving throws of a character 2 levels. Whoa!
This is wow. Okay, let's keep going. This is wild.
That's yeah. That is. All wounds are taken. All wounds are taken from the temporary gained HP first without harming the character. I want to compare this to the samurai. When these are gone, all additional damage causes normal wounds. It makes sense. Hence, a 6th level Bushi could temporarily fight as an 8th level Bushi, gaining 2d10 hit points, and the fighting and saving throw columns of an 8th level Bushi. The key effect lasts 1 turn and can be used only once per day.
Huh.
So, wow.
I want to know if we're gonna see this theme of like Asians can yell and get stronger, because that is one of my favorite stereotypes. I love that there's this idea that Asians could just power up by like being more intense.
They literally have a Dragon Ball power-up move.
Yeah. I sincerely hope we see more DBZ powering up mechanics throughout this book.
I honestly want to give this to Waleed in our game and just make Amar roleplay powering up.
Yeah.
And like in Amar voice, like, Waleed begins to hey Shuang, look at this.
He starts taking off his weighted clothing.
Exactly.
Oh, he's so cool. Anyways.
The constant approach, yeah.
What a strange thing to hide in this one paragraph.
I know, right? It's like, well, it's not that they're hiding it, they're leading up to it. In a very weird way, because they're saying, like, you're super poor and you're broke all the time, and because you're broke all the time and you're constantly grinding, you don't have time to, like, contemplate and give yourself ki or chi. But here's the thing. If this is going to be an Asian book in an Asian setting, okay, chi or ki, however you want to do it, is your life force. That is your healthiness. That doesn't just come from meditation and mental training. That comes from how you take care of yourself, right? So they said you're too poor to have time to self-reflect. Mm-hmm. So here's this ability. You could shout real loud and you can get really strong for 1 turn.
So mystical.
So mystical. In fact, this is the opposite of mysticism. Gives you this ability to be a bruiser. They've reinforced that. Mm-hmm. When a Bushi reaches 9th level, he can establish himself as a warlord. This should have just been a bandit.
Yep.
This is straight up just a bandit. To do so, he must capture or clear an estate and mark its boundaries. That's Assassin's Creed. Once this is done, 30 to 60 Bushi, all of 1st level, will apply to him for positions. If the character establishes a reputation as a good leader who pays skilled men well, more Bushi may apply. All Bushi followers remain only so long as they are paid and the character's cause is not doomed. Upon reaching 12th level, 1d6 1st level samurai will apply for positions. This is an extremely important event since it legitimizes the Bushi's position and gives him a position comparable, though not equal, to a samurai's. At this point, the Bushi can establish his own family household as if he were a samurai of the lowest rank.
Okay. I mean,
I'm just imagining. They said, I'm imagining 60 Bushi and like the one GM who wants to do this, or the one player who's like power gaming. It's like, okay, I take all 60 of my level 1 Bushi and we all use our ki at the same time. And then I get them to charge head first, pull out 60 miniatures, and now they're 60 3rd level characters for 1 round.
Oh my goodness. What a weird design choice. It's an AD&D thing. It's an OSR thing. Cool, but not my jam.
It's a weird... Yeah, you know what? It's not even an OSR choice because like a lot of OSR games are extremely streamlined. This is like needlessly complicated because say you're the only Bushi in the group and you want to do this, you've basically diverted the entire party's adventure to your thing.
Yep.
Like, I have never had really good success running a campaign where people have a stronghold or some sort of fixed location that they're taking care of. Because everybody in the group has to be equally as invested in this endeavor. But that's not an Asian thing. This is just
No.
poorly written. Although there is the
Okay.
DBZ thing. Bushi can come from all levels of society, so they receive no modifier on table 38. A Bushi character is not, however, required to belong to a family. The choice is optional. Those who do belong to a family have all the bonuses and penalties for gaining and keeping honor. Bushi do have measures of self-respect and normally attempt to follow Bushido, the warrior code explained under samurai. However, honor restrictions are significantly less on Bushi than other classes. And I think Bushi, they're just trying to say warrior, right? Bushido, where the warrior, they're just trying to say warrior. But I think at this point, after reading all of that, it just straight up needs to be bandit.
Yeah.
That's it. That would be the change I would make.
Other than like the DBZ like power up,
Yeah.
it's not really that bad. It's kind of boring. Like, why play this over a rogue or a fighter? Or I shouldn't say it, but basically a fighter.
You don't get any other abilities either.
No.
I'm looking at. I guess you get fewer. Yeah, you don't get very many abilities. Odd. Maybe that's an
Yeah.
AD&D thing. Do you want to read the Kensai?
I would love to read Kensai.
I know you. Yeah, I know you want to read this one. You know what? I'm gonna grab my copy of Complete Warrior from downstairs, and that one has the Kensai in it. I'll be right back.
So I'm not gonna lie, Kensai is actually one of my favorite
It's
prestige
cool.
classes at 3.5.
It's cool. I'll grab it. I'll be right back.
Okay. While
read
you
it
do
off.
that,
Read
I'm
it
gonna
off. Read it
I gotta
off.
crack this beer and read it off.
Do it.
So Kensai means sword saint or sword master, and is usually applied to characters who have perfected the art of fighting with the sword. In the Oriental AD&D game, this is broadened to include almost any type of weapon or fighting skill. Thus, there may be Kensai who use halberds, Kensai who use swords, Kensai who use unarmed fighting styles, etc. The player is allowed to choose the Kensai special weapon. In all cases, it is the Kensai's aim to become the perfect master of his weapon. For the man and weapon to become one, acting on a single thought is the ultimate goal of a Kensai. I like how they changed like the way that sentence is written to make it feel, I guess, more mystical or something. They very clearly changed the way the wording was made to make it feel like foreign. All right. To achieve this, the Kensai must master his weapon and himself, and must study and learn other arts. He must practice daily with his weapon, condition his body, and purify his thoughts through meditation and ordeal. Ordeal is interesting. He must acquire proficiencies in different peaceful arts, as well as be absolutely dedicated to his goal. The prime requisites of Kensai are wisdom and dexterity. To become a Kensai, the character must have a strength score, yada yada yada. More about stats. The Kensai must be lawful, although he can be good, evil, or neutral. Only human and Geokai, which are the animal people, the spirit folk characters, can be Kensai. Huh.
So, I've grabbed Complete Warrior, which is, I will say, one of my favorite 3.53 books. I love it so much. One of my favorite classes in this is the Order of the Bow Initiate. Order of the Bow Initiate. At 9th level, you get an ability called Ranged Precision. I love this because this was basically me being Legolas from the Lord of the Rings movies. As a standard action, an initiate may make a single precisely aimed attack with a ranged weapon, dealing an extra at 9th level 5d8 damage. Combined with that, you can use close combat shot, and you can attack with a ranged weapon while in a threatened square and not provoke an attack of opportunity. They're gods. But there is a Kensai in this book, and here's what they look like. It's a blonde white man.
Yep.
Oh. So I brought it for comparison.
Yeah. You didn't miss much. So far, it's just been typical Kensai stuff, if you know what a Kensai is.
Yeah, fighting sword. You got emphasis on the sword.
They actually use any weapon. So they mentioned specifically you could use halberd, you could use like an unarmed fighting style, which is like a cool kind of like relaxed requirement on it.
It is, but then they put the emphasis on using Kensai as a sword saint, sword master. That tells me that they just wanted to use that because it sounds cool.
Yeah.
But then they knew that there would be pushback, so they said, you could use anything you want, but we're still going to stick with this super dope name, which I think really diminishes, what they're drawing from.
Yeah. like if there was a school of Kensei who were using like unarmed fighting or halberds or any other weapon, they wouldn't call themselves sword saints.
No, they wouldn't. It's dumb.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's a poor cop out and a clear indicator that they just wanted to use a cool name, and that they gave very little thought to it.
Yeah.
Because all of this, none of this is culturally coded.
No. Though I will say, here's something that I thought was kind of coded, and it was kind of interesting. So at the first paragraph, it's like going through like very rote, consistent language, but the last line actually changes the way you write, and it has this weird feeler, like it happens all of a sudden.
There is one that I think is super coded, but we'll wait. We're not at that part yet.
Okay. But again, at the last sentence in the first paragraph goes, in all cases, it is Kensai's aim to become perfect master of his weapon. For the man and weapon to become one. Acting on a single thought is the ultimate goal of the Kensai. It's just a weird sentence that changes complete tensing.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways.
Where's the prime requisites? So,
yeah.
Oh, so Kensai used 10-sided dice. That paragraph, very bottom, they say, they can use any weapon but cannot wear armor. Gaining proficiency in and using weapons preferred by ninja causes the Kensei to lose honor unless it is his chosen weapon.
Wow. What?
They really want to create this dichotomy between law and the ninja.
Yeah, D&D in general is always about these tensions of like good and evil, law and chaos, and classism. Poor like the haves and have-nots.
Poor classism. That's exactly it.
Yeah. And it goes back to like the whole colonialism thing. It's like low-class people are to be saved, high-class people are to be like admired, and you want to become them.
And the people who are in charge, the people who are in power, the people who are of the highest social status are spiritual in this.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, let's talk about the player must select one weapon or unarmed fighting style for his Kensai character. The character automatically receives proficiency, but not specialization in that weapon or style without expending any slots. He begins the game with 3 proficiency slots. Only one of these can be used for a second weapon proficiency. The remaining slot must be filled with a peaceful skill. It's kind of cool.
That's
I actually really like that. Just like the idea that
you're not just a fighter.
The game tells you, hey, you can't just be a fighter. You have to also like pick something peaceful, whatever that means.
I wonder what that means.
The Kensai does not receive the reaction attacking adjustment or the defensive adjustment. I'm gonna skip some of this.
Yeah.
I'm looking for some armor here. I'm not seeing anything particularly worth reading aloud.
Okay.
Just like bonuses they get.
Yeah.
So let's talk about ki.
Oh, they do get third level. Kenseis are allowed to hit creatures that normally can only be hit with +1 magical weapons, so they can go past, I guess, damage reduction. What would be the third edition equivalent? Immune to fear. They're stoic.
Do they get DBZ powering up?
They do get pupils, so you can, at 9th level, they can attract 1d6 pupils, drawn by his great renown as a master of his weapon. It's almost like when the bride goes to learn from Pai Mei and Kill Bill.
Yep.
Honestly, I really like Kill Bill. I thought it was awesome, and I thought the Pai Mei character was a really interesting take on that very classic character from Chinese martial arts history, Bak Mei, the man who betrayed Shaolin.
Yep. What I love is that, in from when I talk to other people like martial arts films and like other action flicks that have like hand-to-hand combat, Pai Mei is usually seen by a lot of people as like this kind of almost heroic figure. But that is absolutely not what Pai Mei is supposed to be. Pai Mei is to be
he's a villain.
You're supposed to abhor him.
Well, that's
like,
why.
He's disgusting.
Have you ever seen Executioners from Shaolin?
Mm-mm. Is that one of the Gordon Liu?
No,
ones?
this is the Shaw Bros. I'm not sure who directed it. It's a Shaw Brother production, but Executioners of Shaolin is about a man who knows a particular type of kung fu, and he's trying to take revenge on Bak Mei for killing his father. And Bak Mei is like straight up the villain in that one. And he's got like this awesome ability. He's so in tune with his body that he can suck his private parts into his body, so he's immune to those strikes. It's pretty sweet.
That is one of the funniest tropes. And we were watching
have you
Order of the White Lotus. That's the one we were watching with Gordon Liu in it. I love that movie. It's great. My partner was watching it, and she's like, "Why did they keep kicking Pai Mei in the groin and like closing up on it, and nothing happens?" And I'm like, "Let me tell you the ability they're alluding to."
Well, you know, there's an actual style. It's called Iron Egg. People still practice it to this day, and they stand there and they go, "Huh," and they hit themselves in the balls. There's this amazing Instagram account. If you're into like, if you're ever because we're going to touch on this later on, so I might as well tell you folks now so you can look through this Instagram account. If you are ever into watching white people try to be Asian kung fu masters through like magazines and shit like that, and that whole era of people being able to do the dimmak, the death touch, look up the Instagram account McDojo Life.
McDojo Life.
Yeah, on Instagram, McDojo Life. McDojo Life is gold. It's this guy. He's a white dude. I think he's white, or he could be part Asian, but he looks white to me. His name is Rob. He's a martial artist, and he's dedicated like this entire account with a lot of followers. He's dedicated this account to exposing fake martial artists all over the world. Yeah. Like, so people who think they could freeze you with chi powers, this guy just exposes people.
Cool.
It's a very good account.
That's something that I would definitely watch for like probably a solid hour. Yeah, but yeah, McDojo Life is a cursed phrase. That's something that you said it, and I'm like, Daniel. No.
McDojo Life, like, it's just an account dedicated to catching and exposing fake martial artists. It's very cool. Let's keep moving, because we're actually going at a pretty solid pace. We're 1, 2, 3. We're 4 pages in, Steve.
Oh my goodness. I like this idea that it's in the disciple section. Should the master ever lose a duel to a lower level Kensai, there's a 50% chance that people will leave.
That's pretty cool.
That's actually super funny. It's another thing to like create tension between the GM and the player. It's not very helpful. Doesn't make for good stories.
Honestly, there are a lot of things here that make this character like Jet Li's character in Hero.
Yeah.
He's got whirlwind attack. I like that. That's pretty easy. Honestly, this is the coolest one so far. But it also, compare this to the Bushi, there is no reason to play Bushi if you want cool abilities.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be like poor, play Bushi. That's kind of like the draw of it.
Here's the thing though, you could be a poor Kensei. Maybe you're just like, oh, maybe you're maybe you're down on your luck. Oh wow.
Oh, Scraticus.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. To get everyone up to speed. Ooh boy. We're reading Oriental Adventures from AD&D.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, Daniel and I are Asians, and we're moving through the book as fast as we can, just kind of talking about what we see.
We're now 5 hours into the book, and we're on page 17.
I can't believe it's been 5 hours.
So far, though, this has been a much better session. I will say, this has been a much better session.
Both in terms of content, and I think of us staying on topic.
Us definitely staying on topic.
Yeah, not much more to say about the Kensai here.
No, I honestly think it's cool compared to the other ones. It's one that I would actually play. Like, I like the idea of having a duel. I like the idea of a class. This is cool because you have to train at least 2 hours a day.
That's cool, yep.
It's cool. And they didn't put something offensive like you have to train at the top of a mountain at sunrise and sunset every day. No, it's just like you have to train for 2 hours. And they didn't tell you what the training really needs to look like.
So I guess my question then would be, Daniel, if you had to like take this class and like make any changes to it to like make it even better, what would you do?
I would do exactly what we're doing with La Ning in Dungeons and Asians. What I would do with this one, honestly, if you want to keep it the way it is and you want to honor that sort of I say honor. And you want to do justice to the whole idea of a sword saint, and you're gonna go with it, and you're stuck with it. Honestly, like, go deeper. I would say you have to use a sword. You have to use a sword. I think the only thing that's really wrong with this, other than the fact that, like, I mean, there are. I have to say, when we point out things that are good in this book, and you see, like, oh, there is we point out things that are good in a book that's otherwise, like, very, very problematic. Everything is kind of relative here. So this one doesn't play on any super negative stereotypes. Unless you want to say hardworking is a stereotype, but I wouldn't say so. I think this one is the least offensive. The only thing I would change is the fact that it has to use a sword, because in saying here that you could use any other types of weapons, I think is a huge cop-out. And it shows us that you don't care about the idea that it's a sword saint. You just want to use that cool name. That's the only thing I would change.
I'm feeling you. I think in my vision of, like, what this could have been is keep the sword theme. I think it's really cool and, like, very, like, cinematic.
Yes.
Combine it with some ideas of, like, writing calligraphy like they did in Hero. That was so cool.
Yeah.
Right?
And they have the peaceful skills.
But they don't say, like, calligraphy, like, specifically, which I thought that's a connection that I would give to players and be like, use this. This is really cool.
I've always wanted. Was it, you know, at the end of Hero when he dies and he gets shot by all those arrows? I've always wanted a D&D character to die like that. I just want to I just want to, like, sacrifice myself for a party. Just like this hail of arrows, just take me. Let's roll all the d6s for me. Roll all the d6s.
Oh, they all miss. You survive.
You survive. There are a million ones. Honestly, I'm good to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on Monk now, which is the one that I know everybody wants us to read.
But at the same time, we read the one-liner description, and it was fine.
Yeah.
I disagreed with one word on it that I would have changed for something else, but otherwise it was great.
Oh, so here we go. The Monk class appears in the AD&D Player's Handbook. However, they do not truly belong with the more Western character types presented there, and are included in this book as a fundamental part of the Oriental AD&D game. Hey, look at that. That's actually not bad. Like, they straight up acknowledge that it just doesn't belong with those character classes. That's kind of cool. Gotta give them that.
At the same time, it makes me so sad that it stayed with D&D for so long, even to today, even with Gygax admitting right here and now that it doesn't really fit.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that sentence, right? Yeah, they've done a lot wrong. However, their abilities and powers have undergone some additions and modifications in order to mesh the character class more closely with those of Oriental AD&D rules. That's just a technicality thing. I would have said that they should have matched from the beginning, but they didn't write Oriental Adventures rules when they had the Player's Handbook, so they get a pass. The Monk class combines abilities from several other classes. Oh, these are all the qualifications. We'll skip that. Monks are ascetics who learn their skills at one of the several monastic enclaves found throughout Karator. I think we're also going to have to do a read-through of the Karator campaign setting eventually. Their spiritual training emphasizes the simultaneous development of mind and body as a path to understanding and enlightenment. They're going for a very particular monk.
Yes.
Going for a very particular monk. Perfection for them lies in perfect control of their own spirit, achieving harmony between mind and body. To this end, they become masters of combat forms, both armed and unarmed, not to become great fighters, but to learn their physical powers and limitations. At the same time, they undergo a rigorous mental discipline, honing their minds to perceive and understand the mysteries of the cosmos. Although they can perform incredible physical and mental feats, they cannot perform ceremonies or cast spells. Monks are attached to a monastery but do not receive the religious training that makes a Shikenja or Sohei, but are not considered clergy. That's kind of a cool distinction that they said there. I'm not talking about the Shikenja or Sohei, but to say that they're associated with the monastery, but they are not clergy. That's kind of a note to the players.
So far, it's like, it is what it is. Harmony between mind and body, I'm okay with. I know what they're trying to say. It translates okay to me. It's not great. There's better ways to talk about this. There's definitely a lot of complexities in that kind of statement, and they're kind of like trying to fast forward it to be like, no, you can be Jet Li here. You can be a Shaolin monk.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. Ken in the chat brought up that the writer who was practically raised in a kung fu school, that initial thing that we had go on when we were organizing Unbreakable. And there was somebody there, a white person, who was like, I can do this because I was raised at a kung fu school.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about that till now.
I will never forget about that.
Anyways. Oh boy.
Anyways.
Okay.
Let's get going. Because the discipline required in their training, monks must always be lawful, although they can combine good, evil, or neutral with law. Nice. Most monks are lawful good, and very few are lawful evil. I have no problem with that. I like that they aren't just good, because what if I want to be that Pai Mei, Bak Mei character?
Yeah.
That's all technicalities. Okay. I don't like that the selection of weapons is limited. I don't like that. Because, I mean, if you look at modern videos of people training at Shaolin, they use a ton of weapons. And there are even Kung Fu traditions where they use they master upwards of 20 weapons. Cannot wear armor or shields. That's in line with what they're doing. The use of flaming oil. Why? Is that a cultural thing?
It might be an AD&D thing. That flaming oil is always assumed to be chaotic. Research needed. We need to dig
research needed. What is, if anybody in the chat is watching, we need to know why is there some sort of forbidden use of flaming oil, and if this is a cultural thing for a monk, particularly a kung fu monk.
A monk can't use flaming oil, but they can pick locks.
Yeah,
it's weird.
A monk has 5 other proficiency slots. One of these, one must be used for religion and another for calligraphy. Okay, so then why, this is just me nitpicking, but why say they have 5 proficiencies? Why don't they just say they have 3 and then make them by default have religion and calligraphy? The training must develop several special abilities. When using a weapon, the monk causes 1 extra point of damage for every 2 experience levels. A monk has the normal chance to be surprised at first level, but this gradually improves, as indicated by Table 21. All monks have the martial arts special maneuver, missile deflection. It's pretty standard for a D&D monk. Owing to his physical, everything's coded male in this. Owing to his physical training, a monk can run faster than other characters, beginning with a base movement of 15. This improves as the monk.
That's a typo. That's 15 inches.
That's 15 inches. Shit. Is this a snail?
Oh, wait, no. You know what? That's probably
feet.
a battle map thing. 15 inches would be 15 squares.
Yeah, you're right. about chi or ki being used as a magical ability or labeled as a magical ability in D&D. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm super torn on it, because if you look at like JRPGs,
Yeah.
MP, magic power,
Yeah.
right? It's supposed to be like your internal like spirit kind of thing, and it's used directly for magic. So you have these like Asian creators, generally Japanese designers, who are like, how do I take this idea that like is important to me, and how do I make it accessible to other people? Oh, I'll call it magic, and now you have magic points, and here you go, use it to cast fire and stuff. Yeah, it's like nothing wrong with that, really.
Nothing wrong with that.
But then, you know, you come across this very complex idea of Oriental Adventures, where you have Oriental classes having access to chi, and then you have wizards and sorcerers who have access to fancy magic.
Yeah.
And
the currencies
really,
don't line up.
No, and there's definitely like a power dynamic here, and that's the word of the day, power dynamics, where you have, you know, magic and fancy and sorcery kind of like at this level, and then you just have like the others, and it's very othering. Here's ki, and it does this other thing that's not quite magic, but we'll keep comparing it to magic so you understand.
Yep. Pretty standard stuff here. These are just standard abilities. They get followers. The whole idea of having disciples. Okay, here's an interesting one. At 6th level, the monk can fall 30 feet without sustaining damage, provided he is within 4 feet of a wall. The monk could also fall into cataleptic state, perfectly simulating death. Okay. This can be maintained for a number of turns equal to twice his level. Monk is oblivious to his surroundings in this state, so he must state at the beginning how long he intends to remain cataleptic.
What a weird...
That's just there.
It's kind of cool,
but it's kind of cool, but it's like I play dead, and that's it. You play dead. It's just so odd, because it's like they wanted to take something that they saw in a kung fu movie and just throw it in as an ability, but it really doesn't make too much sense. Because they're making this like, oh, I can do this as a rogue. Okay, I'm gonna play dead and let them walk past me.
It'd be really cool if they could use this through some other means to like make other people look like they're perfectly simulating death. That'd be like a cool thing you could do in a game to like drive a storyline or something like that.
Yeah.
But missed opportunity here.
Missed opportunity.
No real problems though.
No real problems. I will say this is like, honestly, the fact that they don't have super offensive art here is a lot better.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh yeah, that is actually cool. Somebody Ken noted in the chat, it would have been cool if you healed during this state. If you played dead and you healed, I like that.
Like a Snorlax. You just fall asleep and you start healing.
Yes.
Someone make me a Snorlax class. That would speak volumes to me as Steve.
So it's like okay, it's like if Pokemon were these different classes, what would they be, right? So this ability is straight up Snorlax, but this character was it Hitmonchamp or Hitmonlee? This one would be Hitmonlee, and then the Barbarian would be straight up Hitmonchamp because he's all like that bruiser. Oh, yeah. I like that. I have that visual of Snorlax though in my head. Let's move on. Oh my god, they have so many abilities. Okay, so they got special abilities. What I'm looking for is how they portrayed a death touch, if they have a death touch. Because that's a thing, especially at this time, you saw a lot of in kung fu movies.
Death touch, pressure points, like the stunning strike.
Stunning strike, quivering palm.
Quivering palm.
Yeah, that's the... Well, because
I love that.
It's like, because the idea is that it uses like vibrations.
Yeah. It disrupts the victim's ki stream.
Exactly, through all the different, like, how it flows through your body. I think that stuff's kind of cool. Like, when you see it, I thought they did it pretty pretty awesome. It was pretty cool at Kill Bill when
Yep.
she kills Bill at the end with the 5-finger exploding death touch or whatever. I thought that was neat.
My favorite 5-finger death touch is in that Order of the White Lotus with Gordon Liu, where he's fighting Pai Mei's teacher. He's already killed Pai Mei in the sequel.
Hey.
So he's fighting Pai Mei's like master, and he goes for like the 5-finger death touch, and Gordon Liu slips off his shoe and kicks it up, and he 5-finger death touches his slipper. And Pai Mei's teacher's like, what are you doing? And Gordon Liu's like, I don't know. I'm just like trying to not die here.
I'm just trying to not die. If I was the director, I would have made the shoe explode.
Right? Yeah, that'd be really cool.
You know what we should do? Speaking of Kung Fu, since we're doing this, we should do a Netflix party and watch a Kung Fu movie.
Yeah,
watch an Asian movie.
Amazon Prime is great
But
for
but it's hard. It's hard to do that with because we could do that with our community. We could throw up a Netflix party link, and anybody with Netflix and Google Chrome can watch with us and chat.
That'd be really cool.
We'll set this up.
We'll figure something out. Logistically,
there's a dope movie called Shadow on Netflix right now.
I saw it. I haven't gotten into it yet though.
So cool.
We're gonna take the next couple minutes to gush about stuff we watch on Netflix that are like really cool and like
36th Chamber.
36th Chamber. Kingdom. I started watching.
I gotta watch Kingdom.
Oh, Kingdom is great. I've been kind of burned out on zombie movies, but Kingdom has like got me back into it because it's so interesting to see like I'm gonna call it the Korean take on it. That does it injustice to how cool it is.
Oh no, I gotta watch it. It's on my list. But I think that the chat's like Shadow. Shadow is like, there's this fight scene in the rain, and this one character's got a bladed umbrella and is fighting another character with a long guandao, like that glaive, and it is like artsy and violent. It's so good. Okay, that's what we're gonna watch. We're gonna do a Netflix party, and we're gonna watch Shadow.
That sounds like an homage to the hero fight scene where they're fighting in the rain, and the guy Jet Li has the broadsword, and the other guy has his.
The other guy, that's Donnie Yen.
What?
That's Donnie Yen.
Oh God,
dude.
Anyways.
That fight scene is great because I love how they're like visualizing it before it happens to the music, and then boom, it's over. Okay, anyways, let's stop gushing about actually good stuff. Move back to this piece of shit.
Okay. The next couple paragraphs, yeah.
There is a monk does not earn or record any honor points. Honor is an aspect of the material world the monk is trying to rise above. Interesting. However, the monk must at all times have behaved morally and properly, especially when dealing with other monks. There's like a meta thing here that I immediately thought of. Correct me if you think that this is like an overreaction.
Okay.
So, of all the classes that we've encountered so far, the monk is the most overtly Chinese of them all.
Sure.
The most overtly Chinese. Okay. Now, the monk is trying to rise above the material world, and the material world is the world of honor, apparently. Right? So the monk has to behave properly. Like, I think as a Chinese person, we think of that whole idea of the model minority. I think about like, oh, behave properly and things will work well for you. And that's with the monk. And saying it that way, that is an overreaction, but I don't like the idea that honor is a material thing. I think that's stupid.
I don't think it's an overreaction. I think I have a lot of uncomfortable feelings about everything that you just talked about, but maybe not in the pointed direction you've taken it. It just feels weird to me. And that's the best I can do to describe my like reaction to everything we've read about the monk thus far.
Yeah. I think monks, there was a question, do monks have to be human? I forget.
There's definitely some races that
there are some races that can't be monks.
So probably the vast majority mechanically have to be human.
I will tell you that the halfling, the Asian halfling, cannot be a monk. I will guarantee it because that race is portrayed as dishonorable.
You know, I just realized because you brought up that Asian halfling race,
Yeah.
is that evil and like evilness, badness, is equated with body hair, whereas
Yeah.
beauty and grace are equated to smooth and slender features,
Yeah.
slender eyes.
That's what I talked about last time. Yeah, it was like if you have hair in this, you are like body hair or facial hair, you are like evil. Ugh.
Yeah.
I hate that because I know that a lot of people, especially white people who or you know, I won't just say white people who aren't Asian and are listening to this would be like, "Oh, why are Daniel and Steve getting so caught up on this idea of hair?" Now, there is a very good reason for this, and it doesn't relate to either of our cultures. It doesn't relate to anything that Steve and I have ever experienced. Like, I'm trying to grow a quarantine mustache. It's not that great. But the idea of hair and being evil is something that is still firmly rooted in modern contemporary East Asian cultures. And this is why I want to kind of touch on this. Like, Amar has talked about the idea of hair. We've talked about hair and how it was so groundbreaking that Kumail Nanjiani, you know, it is like new jacked state, was on like Men's Fitness or Men's Health magazine. It is like, you know, that whole image of him being hairy, and they left that body hair there. That was important. Now, when we talk about body hair and the other and evil, this is a particularly touching topic in contemporary Japan. We are doing an episode of Asians Represent on this. Now, here's why I think it's wrong. So in contemporary Japan, there exist two major ethnic groups. There's the Yamato people, who are, if you close your eyes and you picture a Japanese person, they are almost 99% of the time going to be a Yamato person. Okay. And then the other group of people in Japan who occupy the north of Japan on Hokkaido are the Ainu. Okay. So the Ainu have a very, very sort of deeply rooted history of conflict with the Yamato people. So there was a whole war called Shakushin's Rebellion, and the Ainu actually fought against, you know, the historical Japanese leadership. They lost. The Ainu lost. They were betrayed by the Japanese and slaughtered after they had surrendered at a peace offering. But Japan has a long history of basically, there was a prime minister in the 80s of Japan, and he said that Japan is a culturally and ethnically homogeneous nation, which is not true. And there is a lot of discrimination against people of Ainu descent. Now, if you go on Google Images and you search up Ainu, you know what? I'll do that right now on this.
Yeah, bring that up.
Okay. If you go to Google Images and you search up Ainu, okay, and I'm going to go images here. These are the type of people that you'll see, okay? Right here, this is the classic depiction of an Ainu man. Got some kind of like Northern European features, big beard. They wear these beautiful robes. These are traditional robes, okay? They have this, they're often portrayed in Japan as the indigenous people of Japan, or the other in Japan, the savage other to the Yamato people. Okay? Now, Ainu men often are portrayed with beards. So even if you look at old photos, the Ainu are associated with nature, they're associated with spirituality. Okay? Ainu women, on the other hand, have facial tattoos. So if you look at this woman over here, you'll see that she actually has tattoos on her lips to give this more exaggerated facial feature. These are markings for the coming of age. But Ainu women also have, it's not going to show that. Oh, here we go. Ainu tattoo. There's another one of the face. But Ainu women also had hand tattoos and arm tattoos that showed off their status as adult women. Now, when we go back to Oriental Adventures and we talk about the idea of showing people with hair and hairy people as an evil other, this kind of idea still is found in the modern world, where in Japan, people of Ainu descent face heavy, heavy prejudice. I did my master's on an archaeological site in northern Japan in Hokkaido. And I was told that when you're dating somebody around, Hokkaido and you want to get married, some families will actually hire private investigators to make sure that your partner does not have any Ainu descent. Ainu are denied jobs. They are denied so many things that everybody in Japan deserves. And it's getting to the point where a lot of people don't even self-identify as Ainu now on, what are they called? Like government forms, because they don't want to risk losing their jobs or not even getting a job because they're Ainu. So when Steve and I talk about are sensitive to depictions of hairy people as evil, this comes from a very real place. So I want to contextualize that for everybody. Sorry, that got real heavy.
I love when you go on those kind of tangents.
We're doing
pictures. You're like, here it all is.
We're doing a whole episode on the Ainu for Asians to represent. I've got a scholar I got an Asian scholar in Japan who works at a museum in Hokkaido lined up to. We're gonna talk. Yeah, and then the whole tattoo thing. Don't forget, like the tattoos with the Yakuza and everything. That extends to the Ainu and their traditional tattoos as well. So let's get back to this, because we're gonna go for another 15 minutes. We're gonna keep these to 2 hours.
Yep. So I don't think we had anything else to say about monks.
No. We're on ninja now, though.
Yeah.
Do you want to read?
I
this
will
one?
say, I'll definitely read this one.
Okay, cool.
I will say that the monk had a lot of things about not having material wealth and being living in poverty and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine. I get what they're going for. It is what it is. You have Western ideas of living in poverty as a type of humbleness. I get it.
Yeah, I get that.
So ninja. This one's actually really interesting, but let's read through it and we'll share some thoughts. So ninjas are the invisible warriors, spies and assassins practicing the skills of concealment, stealth, trickery, disguise, acrobatics, and assassination. They possess a number of special powers and use many unique devices. Could have used the word mystic, would have worked there.
Could have, yeah.
Alien, yeah. Their abilities and reputations are clouded in mystery. Many ascribe supernatural powers to them. The ninjas have done nothing to discourage these stories and may very well spread the tales themselves. Such confusion only enhances their reputations, inspiring more terror at the mere mention of their name. Ninja is not an independent character class. After all, ninja do not really exist. At least that is what the ninja will have one believe. The ninja class is only open to human characters and can only be taken as a special split class. To become a ninja, the character must qualify for the Bushi, Sohei, Wuji, and Yakuza character class. Then the character must meet the minimum requirements and then basically become a ninja. So you have a split class weirdness here. The next 2 paragraphs are more about the weirdness and how you actually deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
A ninja can wear the armor of other classes, but may not be able to use certain ninja abilities while in armor.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That mechanical part is kind of cool, and I think I've mentioned this before. I really like the idea of a class who the game tells you have to pretend you're another class. That's really cool.
Yeah. No, I like that. My only thing is that the ninja and the monk or the. What was the one that had? Yeah, the monk has a lot of ninja-like abilities, which I thought was interesting. So we're on page 20 now. Wow, there's so much stuff on the ninja. I'm just scrolling through.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of this stuff is really rogue stuff. Right?
It's rogue stuff.
This is
100%.
This is rogue stuff. All the way down to backstab, which is a pinnacle rogue ability until his name sneak attack. I'm looking for smoke bombs.
I'm looking for
turning into a log.
Yeah,
I want this ninja to turn into a log, but I don't think we're gonna see it here.
You know what? There's nothing super. I mean, I will say I already know this is a thing because Steve and I were talking about it earlier. there were tons of problems with the sourcing on this. Tons of problems.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that I was informed that they actually sourced from a gentleman named Ashita Kim. Now, this Ashita Kim individual sounds like an Asian person, but Ashita Kim is a white man whose name is Radford Davis, okay, and claims to have trained at certain ninjutsu schools. Is largely considered a fraud in the martial arts community. Very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah. There are some abilities the ninja has. I'm on page 21.
Okay.
Right before samurai, where it's talking about like abilities they have, which you could actually see as part of the monk. So, for example, ninja can at first level ninja can begin using ki when holding their breath. The character can hold their breath equal to a number of rounds, equal to something. You can use your ki to walk across water. So if it's smooth water, you can just hold your breath and walk across it. Or I guess run across it in this case. That's kind of cool. I could see a monk doing that as well, but it's cool that the ninja has it.
Yeah. I think the ninja is super honorable too. A ninja character must maintain his honor above his family's honor. Failing to do so is an offense against the family and carries the same punishment as disobedience, death. Oh, Sasuke. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. The ninja survives. He is considered a Kenin and needs twice the number of normally experience points to adjust levels as a ninja. Continues advancing normally as his other class. That's interesting. All ninjas receive their missions from the head of the family, while the actual instructions may be transmitted through others. Thus, the DM decides what missions the ninja undertakes. A lot of this ninja stuff is... Oh, somebody said, oh, wait, shit, this is Lan-Ning. Ajay said that.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool. But she also is like an actual soldier too.
Yes. Which you have clearly shown. I just can't wait for us to get back into it because we're like in combat. I'm pulling out the minis.
Oh my god.
And then coronavirus came.
Yep.
And we can't do it. It's killing me. I've literally been writing notes on what I want, like kind of plot points I want to hit, things I want for like, because I've been trying to figure out this whole Dongfang thing. It's like, because we've kind of determined like who is Dongfang, because Agatha doesn't know who Dongfang originally was. All we know is that Dongfang was once in heaven and now is on Earth, and there are so many options now.
I think I saw a movie like that once. Her purpose is to build a baseball field, I think, and they play baseball in like Ohio, right?
What?
Okay, this is a joke that did not land.
I did hear that.
This is an Angels in the Outfield joke.
Oh my god!
Which is like,
yes. What a great movie.
I'm pretty sure it hasn't aged very well, but
I mean, of the
cool
baseball
idea.
movies, the best one is The Sandlot.
Sandlot. I didn't watch it.
Oh,
I was not big into sports movies.
Oh my! Like, what about the Mighty Ducks?
Mighty Ducks is good, but I think
Except
anything
the Asian
post
character has to be a figure skater.
yeah, anything post Remember the Titans, I kind of glanced over. Not big into it.
Okay.
Did you see the part about if the ninja is survived, they're considered a Nukinin?
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that word before.
Me neither. But we've seen words where we're like, I've never seen that before. I don't know where it comes from, and we've Googled it, and it's a word made up purely for Oriental Adventures.
Yeah.
So if I Google this,
Yeah, Google that.
It goes right to Narutopedia.
Oh no.
It's just another word for missing nin.
Okay,
So
maybe.
this is used elsewhere.
Okay, so there's a lot of. Do we want to end with samurai?
Actually, I want to scroll back because remember how monks couldn't use ninja weapons?
Yeah. So what are ninja weapons?
Yeah, so I think you have to scroll back to page something where it actually had weapons. Page 14 had weapons. So here it says like like fighter weapons, magic
There we go.
user.
So, where's ninja? Oh, ninja, and that's interesting because ninja falls under thief, and so does yakuza. But then the monk has all these abilities that are very much like that. But they're a... Oh, monk is its own. I see what this is a weird tabbing. Weapons, any. Ninja can use any weapon.
Wait, that's what?
Ooh. Ooh, this is interesting. So
I
they...
don't understand.
Oh. Okay. So spotted some stuff that we need to talk about. Okay. So. Oh my god, I can't believe we didn't notice that before. Okay. So, specifically the monk, because this is a class that we've talked about already. If you look at the monk weapons, I noticed this.
Mm-hmm.
Parang. You see the parang?
Yeah.
A parang is definitely not an East Asian weapon. That is an Indonesian weapon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen this before. I didn't know the name, but yes.
Yeah, that is an Indonesian weapon.
Interesting.
Let's see. A bokto. That's another interesting choice because that is very much... That's a Japanese weapon, and that's the training sword. A wooden sword. A lot of these are like Japanese weapons. Like, I don't see anything like... I don't see a quarterstaff. I don't see a glaive. Unless these are considered martial arts weapons, because the first category is martial arts weapons. So we might have to go and check that out.
Maybe. What's a daikyu? A bow? Yeah,
I think it's a bow. That's a Japanese bow.
Interesting.
Which is an odd choice. But we'll have to look at martial arts weapons in the weapons section of the book when we eventually get to it.
Definitely. But I'm so confused because monks can't use ninja weapons.
But ninjas can use
weapon?
ninja can use any weapon, but ninja characters must use their proficiencies to gain ninja preferred weapons. You know what? Should this warrant a trip to the weapons section?
I think it might. So
Okay,
let's
do it.
like hold the page. Where are we?
Money, equipment. Okay, what we ended on page 21.
Samurai. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're on the samurai.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So oh my god, look at the art. Okay, so, oh shit. Okay, let's go to I'm thinking page 38. We're actually close to weapons. That's not... Oh, next week we're gonna get to the honor part.
Oh, goody.
Ninja weapons. Okay, standard weapons here.
I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but I love that in the weapon section, there's just like a table of like, hey, you want to sound more Asian? Here are ways to say axe in Asian languages.
No. Which
Yeah,
table?
so if you scroll, so you see the picture of like this guy with like a sword and he has like no shirt on. He has like,
yeah.
dope tattoos. Weapon equivalents. So here's like axe, battle axe, and there's like a whole bunch of like alternatives.
Wait, axe. What do you see weapon equivalent? Oh!
That's
Interesting.
yeah.
That is okay. This is like a whole other can of worms, but a crease for a short sword. You could take like an armful of weapons from the Philippines and make those short swords.
Yep. Oh, okay. So I'm skipping because I want to find ninja weapons.
Okay, yeah. This is another episode. This is like 2 weeks from now.
Unless the audience decides otherwise. I can't
the
find
repeated
it.
crossbow. I can't wait to see how that works in this game. I don't see ninja weapons. I really don't want to hit Control F because I know that's going to take me to a place I don't want to get to yet.
Yep. Maybe there's like a column that says like ninja yes no.
Okay, I'm just going to search it. Oh, well, let me. That's unfortunate.
Okay, maybe this is like a take. Let's take
Page
this offline.
45.
Let's circle back.
Apparently it's page 45.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. It's an illustration. Not as offensive as a font. Yeah, so there's ninja weapons right here.
Oh, I see how it's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not ninja weapons. They're just weapons.
They're just weapons. Okay, so to say a monk, like they've basically taken all the stereotypical weapons from ninja movies and they've put them into this. Because wasn't ninjutsu like an oral tradition that was just passed on?
Mm-hmm.
So, and didn't they disguise themselves as farmers a lot? So a lot of the tools that they used. Interesting. So monks can't use these. Shaken or Tetsubishi, those look very similar to, say, caltrops, which every D&D character can use.
How is that? How are these two different things? One has 5 points, one has 4 points.
I'm going to look this up. Okay, so Tetsubishi, small caltrops. And then the other version is a shaken. And a shaken. Oh, it's a shuriken. Apparently that one is thrown.
Okay, so it's a spike ball you throw at someone.
It's like throwing a bag of caltrops at somebody. But we're going to have to get back into it because we're on page 21.
21.
We're on page 21. We made a ton of progress. We made some good progress, more than last week. But we've been at it for 2 hours.
Yep.
We've been at it for 2 hours, and we want to thank you folks for joining us for another installment of Asians Read Oriental Adventures.